Nothing more to tell. Chapter 12. Bryn. This is the one class where not only allowed but encouraged to use your phone. Mr. Forrest told us at the start of my media technology elective on Friday afternoon, so naturally everyone's heads are bent over theirs as he talks about emerging platforms. If the other students are anything like me, though, they're getting distracted by existing platforms. On my Charlotte's Instagram page, which is unlocked now that she's accepted my follow request, I'm scrolling through to see what a Charlotte Holbrook party is like, because of course I'm going tomorrow night, even though I told Trip I wasn't. Poke around, Carly said. I checked the Largo Properties annual giving over the last 10 years, and the one and only time they've ever given money to Sturgis Police Foundation was the year Mr. Lincoln died. I texted information to Lindsay, who replied, "Interesting. Let me see if I can find any actual date of the donation," but I haven't heard anything from her back from her yet. Media technology is the only class I ever shared in Charlotte. I glanced at the corner of the room where they're clustered with Trip, Abby, Lou, and another boy and girl I don't know. I'm as far away from them as I can get, trapped in a corner next to Colin Jeffries, enjoying an overpowering amount of cologne that doesn't cover the stench of cigarette smoke wafting from his clothes. And he keeps relentlessly tapping his foot on the floor too close to mine. This is my punishment for showing up at the last second before the bell rang when every other seat in this classroom was taken. So here's what we're going to do, Mrs. Forrest says, and I force my attention back to him. He turns to the whiteboard and writes Nike, Apple, and Purina on one side, and TikTok, YouTube, and Instagram on the other. You're going to partner up, and you're going to pick a company and platform. Find a promotional video for your chosen company on your chosen platform, and be prepared to share with the class what you like and dislike about it. My eyes stray to the elite corner. I can't help using the name. It's weirdly catchy, where Charlotte drapes herself over Shane, and Abby turns a hopeful smile toward Trip. Trip, who lied like a rug yesterday about not being able to go to Charlotte's party. I know this because he always rubs his thumb and forefinger together when he lies. He's done it ever since he was a kid, although I'm not sure anyone else has ever noticed. If only he hadn't been clutching a volleyball with both hands in gym class 4 years ago when he reamed me out, I could have known for sure whether he actually believed what he was saying. It's useful knowledge to have up my sleeve. When I was in 8th grade, I accepted everything Trip, Shane, and Charlotte said about Mr. Larkin's death. I was mad at Trip, sure, but I couldn't imagine he'd lie about something so important. But Carly and Lindsay are starting to rub off on me, and suddenly I'm questioning everything. What do you know, Trip? I think as he gives Abby a thumbs up and her smile widens. And what did you do? Everybody pair up, Mr. Forrest says. Mason's in this class too, but he's several rows away. By the time I catch his eye, he offers an apologetic shrug, already moving his chair closer to Pavan Chpande, who also would have been a good partner because Pavan remains cute and from what I can recall, saw a kisser from 7th grade. Quick and light with zero attempt at tongue. Want to be partners? A voice from my right. Oh God, it's Colin Jeffries, the original Dreg. I feel bad about calling someone that if it weren't what they called themselves. My eyes dart away, searching for an escape hatch, but everyone else in the class is already paired up. Sure, I say, suppressing a sigh. Do you have a preference for which company, or... I don't give a shit, Colin says. Off to a great start. Well, I pick Purina because dogs. As for a platform, YouTube, Colin says. If you interrupt me again, I'm going to walk away and insert myself between Mason and Pavan, rules be damned. Fine, I say through gritted teeth. There's a moment of blessed silence while we're both staring at our phone. And then my blood pressure settled down with the puppy video. Then Colin has to ruin it by saying, "You should wear your skirt shorter." I know even before the words escape my mouth that I'm going to deeply regret engaging with him, but... Excuse me? I ask. You know, his eyes linger on my knees, making my skin crawl. Some of the girls here hike their skirts up shorter than they're supposed to be. You should do that. If I wanted your fashion advice, I'd have asked for it, I say ickly. But I didn't, since it's none of your fucking business, Colin snorts. Typically, bitch. You throw around a lot of labels for someone who's so rude, I snap. Maybe the people you call elite just don't want to talk to you. Whatever, Colin grunts, turning back to his phone. To hell with him. I'm reaching for my bag so I can join Mason and Pavan when Mr. Forrest calls. Anyone have anything to share yet? He started walking around once we broke into pairs, but now he returns to the front of the room and gestures to a laptop perched at the edge of his desk. Feel free to connect your phone to the whiteboard and show us what caught your eye, even if you haven't done a full analysis of the content yet. The chorus of no thrilled the room because we've barely gotten started, until Colin calls out, "Yeah, sure, there's something that caught my eye." "What are you doing?" I protest as Colin gets to his feet. "We haven't talked about anything yet." "Don't worry," he smirks with a leering wink that makes me want to bleach my eyeballs. "I got this." I look away, repulsed, and catch Trip watching us from across the room with a furrowed brow. As soon as our eyes meet, his flicks away. He He bends his head towards Abby and says something that makes her glance my way. I glare daggers at Trip, even though he's no longer looking at me. Jerk, it's not like I chose Colin. Colin plugs his phone into the cable dangling from Mr. Forrest's laptop. A paused YouTube video fills the whiteboard. Okay, Colin, great, Mr. Forrest says, but that doesn't look like... Colin taps his phone, and too loud music makes everyone jump. Then a man's face comes into focus. Cleft chin, broad nose, steely gray eyes that are too close together, a head full of thick hair that's suspiciously brown for somebody with that many wrinkles. A sense of deja vu hits me. I've seen him before, and recently. Right as the man announces, I'm Gunnar Fox, and you're watching Don't Do the Crime, the only true crime show that takes a no-holds-barred look at what it means to literally get away with murder. Mr. Forrest cocks his head, frowning. This is off topic. Wait for it, Colin says. The camera pans back to show Gunnar Fox striding purposefully at a weird angle like the ground beneath him is tilted. This spring, I'm launching a new series called Killer Kids about boys and girls on the periphery of murder cases who might not be as innocent as they seem. We're starting next week with a dead prep school teacher in Massachusetts whose wealthy 13-year-old student left fingerprints on the murder weapon, yet walked away. Gunnar pauses and stares directly into the camera. Scot-free. And then, to my shock, Shane's face pops up on the screen. It looks like a St. Ambrose yearbook photo. He's in his navy blazer and striped tie, smiling confidently, just like the real-life version would. Real life. Which I have to remind myself is happening now. Shane's barely 10 feet away from me, staring blankly at the whiteboard screen. As Colin sneers, anyone want to explain why we're letting murderers walk around the school? Images flash on the screen. Please tape the chalk outline of a body and leafy red brick campus. That's not actually St. Ambrose. Whoever pulled these shots together did it sloppily, with crappy production values to boot. For a second, there's total silence in the room and everyone starts talking at once. What is wrong with you? Charlotte shrieks, her voice rising above the noise. Turn it off! Colin, for God's sake, Mr. Forrest is making a move for his laptop, but Trip is faster. I didn't even see him get up, but he's suddenly at Colin's side, pulling the phone from Colin's hand and disconnecting with a vicious shake. You're an asshole, Trip hisses at the whiteboard screen goes blank. Give me my phone, Colin orders, reaching for it. Trip leaps nimbly backwards and Colin stumbles from his own momentum, banging his knee hard against the leg of a desk. His face twists as he rears one arm back and takes a wild swing at Trip that misses by a mile. Boys, stop! Mr. Forrest tries to come out from behind his desk, but he's not looking where he's going and gets tangled in a bunch of cable wires. He twists left and right, but only makes it worse and nearly falls over. Do not touch one another, he orders, hopping on one foot as he tries to exgrate himself. Nice punch, Trip says tauntingly, holding Colin's phone over his head. Nearly everyone is on their feet now, forming a semicircle around Trip and Colin, except Shane, who's still frozen in his chair. Want to try again? If I do, I'll end you. Colin makes another futile grab for his phone that Trip easily dodges. You were in those woods, too. You and... He turns towards Charlotte, and Trip moves with him. Eyes on me, Colin, Trip says, pulling the case from Colin's phone, tossing it to the ground. Then he throws the phone itself into the air and catches it one-handed. Or I might accidentally drop this while you're not looking. You better not, you murderer, Colin snarls. Bunch of psychopath elite freaks, all three of you. You think you can kill a teacher and get away with it? Oh, fuck you, Trip says, eyes glinting as he transfers Colin's phone to his left hand and curls the right one into a fist. His face is suddenly a hard mask, his temper ticking over to the point where he almost looks like a different person, and for a second, just a split second, I can imagine him losing control and doing something terrible. The thought should make me recoil, but instead it propels me out of my seat. I push through my classmates with one thought. Stop him before he does something he can't undo. Trip, don't! Abby calls. Her arms are fastened tight around Charlotte, who's glaring fiercely at Colin, like she's hoping to incinerate him with her eyes. You'll get expelled! He's not worth it! Fight! A boy yells, and a bunch of other people pick up the chant. Fight! 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 Mason slips into the hallway, probably to get help because Mr. Forrest is useless. He hollers, Everyone settle down! This instant! At the top of his lungs while yanking a cable from the wall in yet another frustrated attempt to break free. A loud whine of feedback fills the room. A girl screams, and Colin and Trip keep circling one another as they reach Trip's side. Trip pulls back an arm, and I lunge for his sleeve. After that, everything happens at once. I grab air because Shane has materialized behind Trip to drag him away. Colin lets out a wild banshee cry as he stumbles forward with another failing punch, and when I turn to face him, he's both off balance and much too close. Then the side of my head explodes with pain, and I go down. Explain this to me again, like I'm 5, Uncle Nick says after picking me up from the nurse's office an hour later. He had to take a lift here so he could sign me out and drive my Volkswagen home. The nurse wouldn't let me leave without an adult family member, and Uncle Nick was far away and the best choice. The administration knows him from when he used to work as a teaching assistant, plus he's a grad student with a flexible schedule. I'm not supposed to tell your parents you got punched in the head because they'll freak out. Ellie finishes from the back seat. Not a good reason, Uncle Nick says. You could have a concussion, Bryn. The nurse says I don't. I say, although her exact words were, you're not currently showing symptoms, but they don't always present right away, so make sure you're evaluated by your family doctor. Close enough. Not like I blacked out or anything. As soon as I hit the ground, I tried to get up, but Mr. Forrest, who'd finally freed himself from the cables, wouldn't let me. He got another teacher to take over a class and brought me to the nurse's office with Mason's help, even though I insisted I could get there on my own. Now I have a headache and a bruise on my temple that my hair hopefully covers, but that's it. Jesus, Uncle Nick mutters, breaking extra hard at a red light. What the hell is happening at that school? It never used to be like this. Gunnar Fox happened, I said. He's a parastic hack with no journalistic credibility whatsoever. That's a direct quote from Lindsay. Okay, but doesn't that tell you something? Reopening old wounds old wounds about Will is setting people on edge, Uncle Nick says. Maybe you should tell Motive to take a step back. Motive is nothing like don't do the crime, I protest. Your parents should be the judge of that, he says. Ellie lets a disappointed tisk. Way to sound like Dad, Uncle Nick. She says, my niece got punched in the head, he replies. My sister leans forward between the front seats. Do I need to remind you about the vase incident, Uncle Nick? She asks. He groans. Ellie, come on. I was 16. And I was 6, Ellie reminds him. But I still took the blame after you knocked over Mom's favorite vase when you got drunk at Dad's birthday barbecue. I shouldn't have let you do that, Uncle Nick says. That was a terrible, irresponsible move on my part, and look where it's gotten me, covering for a couple of teenagers. Leave me out of this, Ellie says loftily, settling herself back against her seat. I'm an observer, an occasional consultant in this drama, not a participant. So you're covering for me, Uncle Nick, I press. There's a long beat of silence, during which I suspect Uncle Nick pits the angle of his shoulder, who's insisting that his brother needs to know, against the devil who's reminding him that Dad can be a judgmental jerk. Only if you let me take you to urgent care to get your head checked out, he finally says. No driving till we do. Thank you. I say I hugged him if I didn't want to prove my maturity by not making him accidentally swerve into the other lane. You're the best. I love you. I'm a purse chauffeur is what I am, Uncle Nick grumbles. Just promise me you'll keep your distance from the kids involved in this mess. I promise, I say, mentally crossing fingers while I reply to Charlotte's worry text. I'm fine. Can't wait for tomorrow night. Don't tell Trip I'm coming, though. I want it to be a surprise.